Hey, everybody. It's your buddy, Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show. Yep, I'm doing the intro because I guess I'm probably the perfect person. It's either me or Bruce to introduce Paul Korfonta, our guest. Paul was my friend. He was on my team when we were in Iraq, and we got out into the environment, and we were able to talk to all of the locals and understand what was going on in Iraq in a way that the military, State Department, USAID, all these other folks couldn't do it. Paul is working on getting back for his, get this, ready? 13th tour overseas as a civilian. So when people talk about what it takes to get these places right, realize there's a guy like Paul that just goes and goes and goes and continues to get smarter, continues to get better, continues to understand what it takes to create stability in faraway places. You're not going to hear Paul on other channels. If you are, it's going to be in line behind me because I was able to get him. You have to be very careful who you talk to when you talk about it. And so we're very fortunate to have Paul on the show. Paul we worked in Baghdad Province, and which is where Baghdad City is. And outside in the outlying lands where we were, it's like the farm country and the river country. So we were able to go out and look at what Americans were doing. He worked in one area, I worked in another. Sometimes we'd meet in the field. Most of the time we were separate from each other, just out gathering information, writing reports, trying to understand what was going on as we try to create stability in this place. Again, fascinating conversation. You're going to hear a lot of criticism of us because it turns out Iraq didn't work out so good. Here's a funny thing. When people deploy, they have the best intention. Their heart is in it. They really think, even now to this day, oh, we did it right. We did it right. But the reality is when you stay and you talk to people in general and you look at the overall body of work, you realize that nobody was successful. It's very hard work. We weren't prepared for it. And I think you're going to get that from this episode. Really neat to be able to have Paul on. I'm super happy with him doing it. Hopefully I can talk him into coming back on. Okay, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you guys are into the show at all, my ask is that you either do one or two things. Go over to YouTube and watch there because we make a little bit of money now on YouTube. But also grab that PayPal link for the show. You can go to breakitdownshow.com. It's right there. You can grab it from any one of the shows. It should be in all of them. And click on that and put a little bit of money in the pot each month. I'm going to put all of that money right back into the show. This is not a profit motive for me. It's a way for you to help support the show. So you'll see more ads, which you should be seeing, upgrading equipment, which you should be seeing, and just in general, investing in the show, putting Damien and Dragon to work, trying to do that. I do all that out of my own pocket. So understand that there's not a lot of money coming in. And if you guys can support, man, it makes a world of difference. So grab that PayPal link, do me a favor, and look, $5, $10, $20, $100, whatever it is, or you want to do a one-time thing, that's fine too. But that is an enormous help to me because it's just the resources I need. I don't need Patreon to do this, right? What's Patreon going to add to that? Nothing. It's you, it's me, it's us working on this together, no matter what country you're in. I love that you're here. I love that you're listening. Tell me who you want to hear on the show. Hit me at pete@breakitdownshow.com. A lot of new things coming. I just got to keep working. And now we got to get out of the way so you can hear Paul Korfonta.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Bryce Vine.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Daryl
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Paul Korfonta, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
This is really neat. I love doing this. I love bringing people back from my my past jobs, my past life, and having them on the show, Paul. It's just so much fun to, so I don't like to put the Letterman jacket on too often and talk about the olden days. But in this case, what we do is so interesting and so untalked about. I think it's fun to do this. So first off, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate that we get a chance to do this and that we caught you between rotations going back to the conflict zones.
Yeah, you got the right person. I'm the coolest guy in America, and I need to get back and kick some ass.
That's right. America kicks ass. What would you, when your friends are like, Paul, what the hell do you do? What do you say that you do?
Nothing. Information warfare, psychological warfare. I don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we did?
I mean, kind of, right? I mean, it kind of depends on the day.
Yeah, every day is different. They're long days, but it was great working with the military. Good bunch of guys. Jeez. For you listeners out there, Pete was an Army intel guy, and he did a kick-ass job over there.
What does that mean? What does it mean that I did a kick-ass job? Like, what did I do that someone else didn't do? You've worked overseas.
Like I said, I don't know.
All right, so let me give the audience some context. You and I worked on the same team, but we rarely saw each other. We did completely different things on the same team trying to accomplish the same goal. I was usually outside the camp, and you worked on the camp. What would you say your day-to-day role was when we worked with Bruce?
Well, mostly I had to redeploy from brigade to battalion.
Okay.
And go to places like Cache South and Zafrania, and then go out on missions, get out in the crap and survey people, talk to them, see what's going on. We took the pulse of the population, and it was interesting stuff. We'd write them up and give them to the commander, and especially in the end, they really liked us. They, as you recall, towards April of about 2000, God, what was that? 10 probably, they really relied on us even more than the S1, S2, S3, all that stuff. So it was a good experience working with you.
What do you attribute that success to? What made us different and more reliable than
quality of the people? Quality of the people. We lucked out. We had a good team. We had Bruce, we had you, we had me, and John Illusorio, the LA cop. He was a good guy.
Yeah. John was a good guy.
Really, it's hit or miss. It depends who you're with, really. But I had a great time. That was fun. And I miss the ice cream.
Paul was a big fan of ice cream, especially late night ice cream. You have no business walking around in a combat zone. I mean, you're not an Army guy. It's incredible. I mean, don't you realize how incredible it is that you got a chance to go, day-to-day patrol with military units and talk to Iraqis about whatever it was that you were curious about?
Well, they loved us. They were, we tended to be a little older then, so they didn't know who the hell we were. And I was pretty fit back then, so nobody would screw with me. But they looked up to me. I was like their leader when we'd go out. I really was. I mean, I think you were too. I remember when you were with the polar bears, holy Christ, you were like sacred down there.
Yeah, I mean, we ran the battalion. Literally, the commander's like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And if I have to do something, trust me, I'll go do it. But whatever you guys are interested in, let's go. And so Adriana
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That comes from internal, though, right? I mean, that means that the commanders were saying, hey, we're getting this great stuff. We got to get these guys into the field more. I mean, that comes because, I can't remember his last name, but David, the commander of the 210 Mountain, he saw something in what we were doing. Is that attributed to...
Oh, you mean Davies, Colonel Davies. He
Colonel
was the number 2 guy.
Yeah, Davies.
But he liked us a lot, because we could produce and we actually knew how to read and write pretty well and all that stuff. He was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
It turns out, here's the funny thing. It turns out, that guy who turned out to be a big traitor.
Yes.
Who went from male to female or whatever the hell.
Yes.
He was right across the hall. He fixed my computer like half a dozen times. I don't know what the hell he found on there, but...
Yeah. Well, this is a funny thing. So let's slow down right here and talk about this. You're talking about, we'll just say PFC Manning. That way we're not disrespectful to PFC Manning or anybody else. So PFC Manning is obviously...
You don't want to be disrespectful to PFC Manning? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, well... I'm just trying to, it's not my job to assign anybody any kind of problems or blame around here. I'm just trying, let's just talk about that person and the time that they were in. Obviously, PFC Manning is having a conscious crisis, and I'm not talking in terms of identity, but, working in the intel shop, processing stuff, seeing things that he knew at the time he knew was wrong. Imagine if he had come to you and said, what should I do about this? Like Peter Van Buren and I have talked about this because he was, 10 feet from him also, and we didn't talk to this guy ever, especially me because I was always out. But if he had come and said, hey, you're not in the Army. What do you think I should do about this? Can you imagine that conversation if you were like in the chow hall late at night and he calls you up and says, hey, can I sit down and talk?
Well, I certainly talked to him because I didn't know he was A, transgender at that point, and B, a huge traitor. And he was pardoned by Obama, which is the biggest crying shame. And, the guy should be hung, quite frankly. And I'm not kidding about that.
Yeah,
either.
no, I know. I'm taking it serious that you're saying it because, and I think it is a valid position to hold that position. I'm a little softer than you are because the stuff he reveals is in part of the problem. Like the State Department was so arrogant and so shitty towards their Iraqi partners. They were putting people in harm's way. And I can understand wanting to reveal that. You shouldn't do it that way. And PFCs don't get listened to. And so oftentimes have to make the best decision they know how to make, which was a terrible decision in this case. And definitely.
Well, he's a PFC.
Yeah.
Remember, he's a PFC.
Yeah. Not knowing what to do. So,
I mean, I talk to anybody. I don't care. I didn't know the guy was a traitor. I mean, he fixed my computer half a dozen times, for crying out loud. So.
How crazy when you see PFC Manning's face going through this process and you think, oh my God,
Now, is she a she or a he these days? I can't remember.
PFC Manning is a female these days, has transitioned or is transitioning. Yeah. Identifies as a female is probably the right way to say that, to be respectful to all concerned.
Well, perfect cover. She's a traitor.
Yeah. But it's crazy to have that in your midst when you're trying to solve these complex problems. So in one regards, you're 100% right. Revealing the information that was classified is a deep, deep problem and requires jail time, which PFC Manning served. And then what about the State Department being so arrogant, so shitty, so incompetent, putting people like us in jeopardy, that's a problem too. Probably the bigger problem.
Yeah, I had pretty good experiences. I came into Afghanistan or in Iraq in 2004 or 5 with the State Department. So I had a good experience with them, basically. In fact, my first night I was there, I was in my little, what do you call them, hutch or hooch?
Hooch, yeah.
We had a rocket attack, and the damn rocket went right over my hutch or hooch.
Hooch, yeah.
And I was stepping down out of the shower and did a somersault on my goddamn back. And they took care of me after that. That was my first night there a long time ago. I mean, they're skilled. There's some really good ones, some so-so ones, and some terrible ones. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it is.
They're the old striped pants crowd from Foggy Bottom, but
my experience by and large, they're really incompetent. They're arrogant. They don't know that they're not, like, they think they're the smartest person in the room because they've got the degrees and everything. But when you talk to anybody around there, they're so out of step. They're so removed from the reality that they're in that they're a destabilizer. I will say this in general, as an entity, as an organization, the State Department in conflict zones is a destabilizer. Yeah,
well, arrogance, you hit it on the button there. And there's a huge difference between state and DOD. DOD are a good bunch of guys, and they work hard. State just putter around and go to cocktail parties and don't do diddly squat, quite frankly. I don't know what the hell they did over there, really. But I had a good time with them.
Jim Belcher kind of nails this whole PFC Manning thing. Jim Belcher, by the way, his dad survived the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. And he says basically, right conscious, wrong method.
Well, that's what they said about us, our program. Right conscious, wrong method. As you know.
Yeah, that's true. Right. The AAA, the Anthropologists Association of America, didn't approve of what we did. But the reality is I wasn't doing anthropology. I was collecting intel for the commander. And
yeah, I was working for the brigade. I didn't do any of this bullshit stuff that, they wanted us to do. It just didn't fit in over there.
Well, and their paradigm fits in an academic world where you can spend time defining a research plan and then going through a moral board that checks and are you being moral and everything. But that doesn't apply to what we're doing. Our information changes day to day.
You're talking about that ARPA group that I had to deal with. Are your methods sound? And, you're not hurting people out there.
Right.
It's like, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
I know a little judo, but I'm not going to kill him.
Hi-ya! Yeah. Well, and the other thing is when you're out in these patrols, these people are already in harm's way. So trying to protect somebody that's in a dangerous place, it's not possible. It's not possible for a person to do anything to in any way harm or protect that person. It's just there's too many outside influences to account for to know that you're doing it well. And the other thing is a lot of those people are quant people. And you and I both know the qualitative information that you get in a conflict zone is much more powerful than anything quantitative. Anything quantitative is suspect.
Well, it goes back to McNamara. Remember the body counts and all that,
Yeah.
and numbers. It has nothing to do with that crap. I mean, it's bullshit. You got to get out there and talk to them and figure out what's going on. And they typically like Americans a lot. That's the hell of it is.
Yeah.
10% don't. They're going to try to kill you. And we've been through all that crap before, as you know. But mainly they like Americans, but you got to get out and engage them.
Yeah.
And the worst thing you can do is zip in and zip out because, you can't commute to a damn war. You got to be out there with them. Petraeus told me that, by the way.
Well, and our current Secretary of Defense said and did a lot of things. I don't want to throw any kind of negativity towards the Secretary of Defense, but he wasn't terribly successful. I mean, given what his mission was,
I like him for jealous reasons. I wrote a paper for him at All Fall Palace, the headquarters in Camp Vic.
Yeah.
And he liked it a lot. So I got a lot of accolades for it. It was about governance. They're having trouble bringing governance together in Iraq. And he mused that, what's better, presidential or a parliamentary system? And I wrote a paper saying parliamentary is better, the one they had, because it protected minorities who were getting slaughtered, Catholics and all those other Yazidis and all those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Yazidis were a real problem for everybody because they would get annihilated by everybody. No one liked them. And
no, I'm a hero in the Yazidis organization because they drink liquor.
That's right.
And one guy, he owned a liquor store, and they were getting harassed by the Arabs. So we had a show of force. This is on the east side of Iraq, and we saved his liquor store. We showed up and harassed other people who were harassing them. So I get the Yazidi gold star.
Yes. I want to go back. You talked about being in a mortar attack. And it's hard to explain how terrifying and yet pedestrian these things are. You hear incoming, incoming, incoming. And you're like, God damn it. And then you look around, where can I go? And then it's over and you're like, oh, it didn't even land near me. And it's literally nothing half a second later. And even if it does happen and you're close to it, a lot of times, same thing. You're like, well, that one didn't hit me, and you move on. It's a crazy world to have to live in like that.
It happens fast, and what can you do? Hit the dirt.
Yeah.
You just hit the damn dirt, and then you move on and you forget about it. Although I had some bad ones before I was with you. When I was with USAID, I had some guy who had basically his head blown off. I was on the other side of the T-wall. Mm. So I was spared, but he had his damn head blown off.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking.
Picked up a piece of his skull afterwards. It was disgusting.
Yeah. How does that impact you today? I mean, I know you're still willing to go back, still trying to find jobs and everything to go back. How does that stuff hit you?
Not much. I think it does right after you come back. You're a little on edge. I mean, I remember flying down to Miami and walking around 4 a.m. in a bad section looking for a fight, basically. But it wears off. You hear firecrackers go off, stuff like that, and you jump. I mean, because you heard it all the time, and you had to take cover. but it wears off.
How long?
Others.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how long does it? Go ahead. You do it.
No, I was going to say others, have some serious problems with it. If they saw their buddy killed or something, they suffer from serious PTSD. But that never happened to me or anything.
I have PTSD. I had a lot of exposure to all of that stuff, and what my therapist and I think is that just I sort of blew out my cortisol channels, and so my brain just responds. The default response is like a combat response, and so I get depressed or whatever it is instead of having a normal response, or I get overly mad at something that I shouldn't be mad about, because I just spent so much time outside of the wire, so much time in danger. So much time working, because we worked a lot. Do you remember how much we worked when the 82nd...
16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And then when the 82nd was going to transition out, you remember how hard we had to work to get those stupid books up to speed?
Yeah. The baseball carts.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And then it was hilarious.
Yeah, I was fairly new then. That was a pain in the ass.
But we sat there at those desks and redid those cards and redid those cards and redid those cards with no rhyme or reason, just redoing them, and it was like, not good enough, not good enough. And it's like, well, we're making shit up now, like it's just falling asleep at our desks. One of the things that's funny, the military spent, I don't know, let's say $1 million on overtime for us to get those books done, right? And then the 210 came in, 10th Mountain, the unit you're talking about. And they're like, we don't want those things.
No. I actually liked the 210 a lot. They were a great group. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, but it's just funny where the 82nd is trying to preserve this legacy and trying to have this, like, this is how, we're going to have the best handoff ever. Didn't happen. The unit had to learn a lot all the way from the beginning again. At least that was my experience.
Well, that's what happens. The units come over there and they're there 9 months. They transition out. They rip out and the new unit comes in. They want something totally different. It's just the way it is. It can be done better. I'm not quite sure how to do it, though. And the military guys didn't want to be there. We were there voluntarily,
Yeah.
So that was kind of a trick,
Do your friends think you're crazy for doing this kind of work, going to conflict zones and going outside and talking to people? Because that's fucking crazy, by the way.
Well, they thought I'm crazy since about the age of 13, so you can say that. But yeah, they don't know what the hell goes on over there and why I do it. But I'm supposed to be on my 13th tour right now, but I can't get over there because of this virus thing. I got to go through El Paso, Texas, the CRC thing.
I've been through there. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And
it's the funny thing is, when you go through there, they'll say, do not go to Mexico. It's dangerous. And you're like, are you kidding me? I'm going to go to Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever,
I know.
Sure, Juarez is dangerous. However, I'm going to be out in Iraq in a week if you do your job right. And guess what? It's hilarious. And so I went to Juarez anyhow because I like drinking in Mexico and hanging out in clubs and stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, Juarez used to be real difficult, but it's not that much anymore. And that's why they built that big mall there on the Fort Bliss where you could go and, drink and go to restaurants and things like that. So they kind of took that off the table by building that. And they have a great bowling alley there.
It's not as much fun as a Mexican club, I promise. Way better things happen in Mexican bars than anything on a post,
Yeah, you can get your throat cut easily, but
well,
okay.
There's better things than that, but yes. So let's talk about mortar attacks again, because EFPs, EIDs, the threat of constant vehicle bombs, actual mortars coming in, and you get your ear tuned, you're like, that's outgoing, that's incoming, yikes, or that's incoming, that's going to be far away. Your ear starts to learn how to triangulate, and you're an athlete, so you understand like the triangulation of things and sounds and stuff just because of your experience. But when do you get used to that? Like look, again, I think athletes who play hard sports are better at adapting to this stuff because we have a physicality to our environment that we're used to. Like if you and I had to do shoulder rolls, and that kind of thing, we've done those things in practice, right? We have a sense of space and time because we can catch a ball or whatever. But when did you get used to that? And that sounds really retarded, but I think there is a reality to that. So let's talk about that. But also, when do you think you got used to and understood the whole incoming and the threat thing, where it was, I don't want to say less of a concern, but a manageable concern?
Yeah, it just takes practice. The first couple of times you hear it, you freak out, you hit the dirt, and you're scared as hell. But you get so used to it that it becomes like common day stuff, you know. There was a time when I was with USAID around 2007, 2008. It was happening every 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
You just get used to it. I mean, we were pummeled. I mean, it was just crazy. Just hit the dirt, get up, and go about your work.
And then,
so it takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And you also know when it's
people
dangerous to you, like, oh, that's not going to hit anywhere near here. We're on a giant camp. Yes, of course they alert everybody, but you know, they never mortar over here, so I'm going to disregard.
My camps mine tended to be smaller camps. So when you heard the, incoming, you knew that something was coming, man. It wasn't like going to be half a mile away. It was going to be on top of you. It just takes time, and just do the simple things. Hit the dirt, stay away from windows, all that crap. But you're still, they still killed a lot of people.
Yeah. And not to make light of it. It is, it's a serious threat, but it's the weirdest serious threat ever, because you can have, and I know you'll agree with this, you can have mortar attacks every day, and you're supposed to run out to the bunker, but by the time you get out to the bunker, in a lot of cases, the attacks...
You expose yourself.
Yeah, well, and the attack's over, You're like, well, I'm just going to sit here in the chow hall, or I'm going to sit here in my office. I'm not going to go to the bunker. The attack's over. They dropped 5 mortars or whatever it is. It didn't happen here. I'm going to keep working. If you went to the bunker every time and waited for the all clear every time, we would never get anything done.
Well, not only that, but you're exposing yourself. If you're running out in the open, you're going to get nailed. The best thing to do is just hit the dirt.
Yeah. And then the other thing is...
What else can you do? Christ.
And it's... on some camps where it's dangerous, you wear body armor all the time. But on most camps, you're not going to wear body armor all the time. So you'd have to stop, put on your kit, run outside, because that's technically what you're supposed to do, and then get to the closest bunker.
That ain't going to happen. Yeah.
Nope. And again, the attack's over. And then you sit in that bunker for an hour and a half while they get the all clear. And we all know it's already all clear. It's just, hasn't been sounded officially yet.
Yeah. In half the time, it never comes at all. So it's, a waste of time. But
I'm glad you said that.
At times it does come. Yeah. It does come.
So,
those were funny days. I tell you, I don't miss them, but I'm going back, hook or crook.
One of the questions I get is, how do you deal with the danger, when you're going to go? Because you've patrolled as much as any civilian ever, right? So
yeah,
when you go to put your foot into that combat space where anything can happen, to include shaped charges, EFPs, IEDs, grenades thrown at you, all those things that happen to us, how do you deal with the danger?
I had a perverse way of just thinking it was fun and exciting. I don't know what it is. I mean, going back to your question of whether I'm crazy or not. So I guess I'm just crazy. I just liked it. I don't know what to say. I mean, did you like it or?
Yeah, it was fascinating. I got to have these incredible conversations. I got to find out things for the commander that literally no one else in that patrol had the ability to find out. It was in that tour where a farmer said to me, you guys have spent $1 trillion here. This is before we were even talking realistically that we'd spent $1 trillion, but we all knew he was right. And we don't have a high tension power grid to provide power. I get maybe power from my neighbors. I can light my dirt in my backyard on fire. There's so much oil in it. And yet I don't have electricity in my house. And then he said this, how long would your government run without electricity? And we know the answer to that. It's like 8 seconds. People in Texas are losing their minds because they don't have power. These guys didn't have power for indefinitely, or they had it infrequently and indefinitely that would last. So of course they're crazy,
Yeah, I knew the electricity people in the embassy, and they said, we can electrify this whole thing in days. But it's a huge governance thing, like the locals versus the provinces. They wouldn't let them do it. Give me $1 million and I'll let you do it. We're going to give somebody $1 million to electrify the place. It was just a huge political power grab over there. They said, oh, we can do this in like a couple of days, but
Yeah.
it never never happened. God.
Is that a mistake? Do you just pay that cost? I mean, you think of what we spent anyhow, and they still don't have that set up. Is that what you do?
No, but whatever happened, it didn't happen. It got better, no question about it. I remember we did that Baghdad survey. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And things improved through the years, but they weren't, perfect or that good. But they at least improved. So we did some good over there, for crying out loud.
And yet,
cost way too much.
Everywhere I went, though, the Iraqis would tell me, as soon as you guys leave, there's going to be a civil war.
Yeah, well, that almost happened. And one thing that President Biden was not asked about. Remember, he wanted to partition Iraq into 3 separate states.
Yes.
Remember that whole thing?
Yes.
That would have caused a civil war.
Yeah.
Face it.
Let's just.
He got away with that. Nobody asked him that during the debate. I mean,
I don't understand why everybody. I don't know if you remember this, but when General Austin was there, Joe Biden came out and he was going to talk to Maliki and get everything sorted out with the SOFA, and Maliki froze him out. He's like, "I don't talk to you. I'm number one. Where is Obama? That's who I want to talk to."
Yeah.
And
That's
Biden
a funny thing.
had his dick in his hand and couldn't get anything done because, he's just not good at foreign policy. That's just the bottom line. You don't got to like the guy or hate the guy to know that he's just not good at foreign policy.
Well, he's just a dumb guy. I mean, he seems like a nice guy.
Sure.
Good enough guy.
Yeah.
But he's just stupid. But I used to, going out on our patrols, I would talk to the council leaders and the mayors and all that. And they would say, when can you get me a meeting with the president? I'm like, is that my job?
Yeah.
I'm sure you got stuff like that. I mean, Christ.
We got a lot of this. So the mayor, the Comicom, who, by the way, got assassinated after we left. And this was a genuinely good dude as far as we knew, right? I mean, no one had any intel saying he was a bad guy. Everybody kind of liked him in their villages and stuff, but he still got himself killed. He said, quit giving out greenhouses. It's destroying my day because I got people coming and politicking for them, people complaining about them, and people coming and asking for more of them. These 3 facets. And that takes up so much of my time. I can't plan my day because I have too many people. You're causing too many people to come to my office for things that I don't even have control of. Stop giving them out, or give them to me and I will give them to the right people. Because, by the way, you're not giving them to the right people.
In that, and I think we're just giving away too much stuff. I mean, they just, they wanted anything they could get their hands on, especially money, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I was a walking ATM.
There was a lot of money. During that deployment specifically, I put my hands on the most amount of cash I've ever had in my life. And it was 2 stacks of hundreds that I could just barely hold my hand. That was like $600,000 or something like that, or $300,000. I think we gave them 6, but I could only hold on to 3.
Yeah, Jesus, when I was with State, I walked around with sacks of money right before the parliamentary election 2005.
Yeah.
6 million in like 6 weeks or something. I'd meet people up at the Al Rashid with some other staff members and just literally hand them cash.
Mm-hmm.
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
And keeping track of all that was crazy. God.
There was a contract let out to improve public spaces, and this guy's like, I'm going to build a wonderful park. And we're like, oh, that's so great. The kids can have so much fun. And he's like, I'm all done. And they're like, we'd like to see pictures before and after. And he showed us pictures of the exact same space. He's like, it doesn't matter. Just give me my $500,000. $500,000. And he literally did nothing except for pick up cash. And we gladly paid it.
Well, the worst thing is, and this is on the Army, believe it or not State Department, but they go into an area and build a school. And okay, now who's going to attend this school? And the big thing, who's going to maintain it?
Right.
Nobody attended the school and nobody could maintain it. So it's just the biggest waste of freaking money. It was just disgusting.
It's
Those
so
were
true.
Iraq days.
I don't know if you recall, I did a little report then on water filtration systems because we'd find these derelict ones, and I started learning all about them because we thought this was going to be this, we have to get them water. And a couple things came out of this. One, Iran's, the Red Crescent, which was, sponsored by Iran, they would come out and they would fix these things for them and do it right because they did it within the norm of that area. And now we were giving Iran influence through our own water filtration systems. And then the other thing was everybody thinks about fresh water, but no one ever says, what are we going to do with the gray and black water? What are we going to do? And everybody all over the place, people would say, maku mai, maku karaba, like bad electricity, bad water. And then I would say, well, what are we going to do? Like, we cut a channel in the street for the wastewater to go through to go downhill. That's all they had. Just natural plumbing, and we just were desperate to push more water out to people, but they had no means of processing it.
Well, the other thing about those water plants, there are a lot of dead bodies in there. People would kill people. Shias would Sunnis kill Shia, and they dumped the bodies in there. And they found bodies in there daily.
It became like an American shrine. Like, here's what happens when you deal with the Americans. You get dumped in one of these things. It's 100% true. 100% true.
Yeah. Crazy shit.
It is crazy. It is. And it's also shows you how hard this stuff is. Like, we want to give you water. We want to give you money to start your business. We want to do all these things. But if you don't have Pete and Paul running around going, hey, slow down, don't do that. Work slower. Find the right thing. Talk to your governor. I mean, look, I learned this after I left working with you guys. No one ever asked the mayor what your plan is. Like a no shit plan, like phased out, prioritized. What do you need from us? How do we give you less? We never did that. We just came in with all the answers and all the money without ever asking a single fucking question.
Yeah. There was no planning, and the big thing is you build something, you've got to have O&M. You got to know how to maintain it. You just can't build it and run away and redeploy or whatever. You got to know how to maintain these things. And you don't build a school if no kids are around. It's just bullshit. God.
Well, you also don't build a school by saying we're going to build a school right here and then see how many kids show up. Like, that's just foolish to do that. And
that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
It creates instability,
I've been to good schools over there, no doubt. Like in, right around Zafrani and all that. They were really good schools. And they took care of themselves, and the principals were smart, and they knew how to take care of the property. But you don't randomly go to some place, build a school, and think people are going to show. I mean, it's just like bizarre.
The other thing that I learned was when we do these performances of how many kids are in school and we go there and take pictures and everybody feels good, if you go there the next day and find the same thing, you might have that actual win. But if I was to go back to that school the next day, I bet it'd be a different story because it wouldn't be a performance. It would just be me and a small patrol show up unannounced, and they'd be like, there's no kids here today. It's Abe Lincoln Day, or whatever.
Well, that's it. What they want more than anything is cash, cold hard cash from us, and they put on a performance, kind of like the Russians used to do during the Bolshevik days. Have these husky workers out there pounding things, and quite frankly, they were all in Siberia starving to death. They have the KGB guys out there looking strong and all that. It's just complete BS.
I don't know if you were on the team at this point or not, but I had gone out and done some work with the radio, and Bruce and I were interested in how the radio was working because we were briefing so heavily. It's working. And so
you guys are up on the roof all the time.
And walking around town, like, can I find the channel? And I couldn't. And so Bruce and I went out to another place. And we asked, there's no radio station here. Like, the actual node where the radio station was supposed to be was an empty room. And they're like, some guy took that a long time ago. You guys don't know that? And these are the Iraqis telling us this. And so we started gathering information everywhere, right? And every briefing when they brief this stuff, they would brief all this capacity. Here's where the radio are located. They each have a 3K radius of broadcasting. And that means, it's 24 hours. And we've got, Islamic-centric programming during the proper times of the day. And so you think that, okay, this is a measure of effect, right? And you think, oh, that's working. And then Bruce raises his little tiny hand and says, sir, that's not true. And then Colonel McGuire looks at Bruce, and then looks at that guy who's briefing the radio stuff and goes, okay. And he's like, there's actually no radio there at all. Not even physically present. It's gone. And so is the one in this area. And so is the one. And then the colonel just turns red and just takes his massive hands and rubs his head a couple of times and looks at that electronics warfare, PSYOP guy, and just looks down. And he's just, you could see him trying to decompress. And then looks at that guy and looks down and he looks at that guy, and everybody knew the intent. You better fucking fix that, But this is what happens all the time is because there's not someone like you and I to go out and go, hey, I tried the radio. It doesn't work here. I can't tell you why. It's just not working. Maybe you want to put some resources into that. And then
was McGuire the redheaded guy, West Point guy?
West Point guy. Yeah. I mean, he might've had red hair. Yeah. Yeah. Huge guy though. Huge guy. He played football.
I played football against him in college.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. He was a D tackle and I was QB in the day.
In the day. Yes.
He was an okay guy.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he's still a good guy. He was doing things the right way. And I remember I was very deferential to him because I didn't know how to speak Commander yet. And we were out at one of the really distant JSSs. And he's like, Pete, someone sit next to me. And I was like, whoa, okay. Because I don't want to bug the guy. And he's like, you're doing good work. I want to hear you have to say about this stuff. And he sat me next to him when they briefed us. And I was like, this. And basically he's like, yeah, keep staying out here, keep working out here. And so that's why I stayed out in that area a lot, was because he's like, I need to know what you find out because this isn't working. And he recognized that. And this is so rare for commanders, by the way, it's for the audience, to have a commander recognize what you're doing and say, I need you here in this remote ass area where nothing's going on. I don't know enough. Please tell me what's going on,
Well, that's what I like with 210. The colonel, the guy from Montana, black dude.
Yeah.
What was his name? Davies.
His first name was David, and I'll think of his last name, but it was like David Moore or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. But he would just send us out. Just get out there and let me know what the hell's going on, So I enjoyed that. I was mostly Cash South and Zafrania. I think you went to that place by Solder City, right?
Oh, I went to there. I went to a lot of places. I got bounced around quite a bit. I want to ask you this. Yeah. So over at Tuatha, right, and that's sort of by Cash South, Cash North area, they had a nuclear plant. This is for the audience. They had a nuclear plant that was blown up a long, long, long time ago by the Israelis. Because they're like, you're not making nukes this close to us and saying the shit you're going to say. So they flew a jet in there, blew the fuck out of that nuclear plant. And it was derelict ever since. If you ask the Iraqis in that area, hey, what happened here? They'd say the Iranians blew that up. And you could not convince them otherwise. Yeah, that's funny.
That place is actually right next to Cash South. And I used to run the steps up there, 49 steps.
The $1 million staircase.
Yeah, and they told me to be careful because there's snipers up there and they're going to shoot you. But I wanted to get some damn exercise.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's outside of Jisr Diyala. That's where I got kind of blown up that time. But they don't know anything. It's all kind of disinformation. They don't know what the hell's going on. They'll blame it on other people. That's right, the Iranians. They blamed it on the Iranians. But it's really the Israelis that nailed it in 1980, I think it was. But that's different than the other one that was nailed in 81.
This is one of the points that I love to make about how ill-prepared we are to deal with the realities on hand. That is an absolute reality there at Cash South. An absolute reality. There's no denying it. You and I could go out and ask 100 people and we would get a 90+% return on the Iranians did that. And the Americans would never believe it. Nope, that's not true. The Israelis did that. We know it for a fact. It doesn't matter what you know. It matters what they know, what they believe. How does that,
exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all that disinformation crap. They're trying to they're just trying to keep the populace in check, basically, from what I could tell, but I don't know. I mean, Jisr Diallo was a little different animal, and they had about 200,000 people in there, and they generally liked us, but they would shell us a lot too. But yeah, they keep the populace, stupid, quite frankly. I mean, it's just the way it is over there.
Yeah. One of the other things, it's so many of these programs that fail, Paul, that drive me a little bit crazy. So if you remember, drip irrigation was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
And I would go out to these farms and I would see, oh, there's a drip irrigation plant. Let me gather some information about this. This will help the people doing this program. And I would see this vast farm with this one little section, a tiny section, and he would have his little drip irrigation thing going. And I would go, what's going on here? He's like, well, I'm using your guys' drip irrigation thing to grow. They say it's going to grow a bigger crop. Do you think it will? No, not really. I don't believe it. Okay, great. Why only this little area? Well, that's the only capacity they've given me. Is that enough for you to take a crop to market? And then they would laugh in my face and go, no, I'm going to have to do these other things to actually bring a crop in. So, but meanwhile, whoever it is, USAID, US Ag is like, we've got 150 drip irrigation systems out there and the farmers love it. And then you go there the next day and they're like, yeah, whatever. I'm doing this for you guys.
Yeah, here's a funny story about drip irrigation. I was with 210, and we were in a kind of crappy part of town, and we were going on a midnight raid, basically. And you still with me, Pete?
Yeah, I'm plugging in some power. Keep going.
Okay. But it is a funny story because we saw some guys digging on the side of a road near where a farm was at midnight.
Right.
So What do you think we're thinking they're doing?
Yeah. They're going to store some weapons there, bury a bomb for us. Something bad is going to happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we went chasing them. I didn't have any PPE in. All I had was a flashlight. And all the guys were all kitted up. And I was chasing these guys through a field. And I didn't have a weapon, for crying out loud.
Right.
Then we got to their farmhouse and we figured, all right, what's going on? So the guys let me kick in the door, and some real nice guy came out and said, oh, they're just doing irrigation at night because you did irrigation at night because they didn't have the power during the day.
Right.
And the guy invited us in for tea and all this. So it's just kind of a funny little side story. And they turned out to be okay.
It happens all the time.
Just misperceptions. It's just so funny.
Yeah, and sometimes those misperceptions turn into... So I've literally heard, and I'm not the only person that's heard a commander say, we need to find some people to kill. And then they're like, well, how about that farmer that's been burying bombs in his farm? And they're like, yeah, that's the guy. And then all of a sudden they become a target. Maybe they're a target, maybe they're not. We don't know enough to even know. Maybe that person is the one person in the valley you don't want to kill, because he's beloved by everybody.
Yeah, the guy turned out to be a great guy.
Right.
We irrigate at night.
We'll kill him.
That's when we get power.
Yeah.
Well, misperceptions. You remember the Blackwater thing. Oh, God.
Yeah.
They ended up killing 17 and for no reason at all. It was just bizarre,
I'm a little bit... it's hard with those guys because this is a thing just for the audience in general, and then fill your thoughts in after this. Where we work, it is all gray zone. It is all gray. You don't know what to do. And that's why you can't be completely passive and inactive, but you can easily overact and overreact to things. And so it's hard to find that spot, especially if you're Blackwater guys running security details and you've been blowing up every day for 2 months. It's really hard to respond in a way that's proportional to the threat in that moment. And I've seen any number of times where commander has considered, a civilian being killed, and they think, okay, am I going to destroy this E4's life because they killed somebody and it's too close to the black. And I've seen it happen both ways. We're going to prosecute. And I've seen most of the time can't do it because we just, we can't expect this kid to know what to do. Someone's driving up towards the convoy and they light that car up. Did you do all the signs? Yes. Did they keep coming? Yes. All right. There is no threat. We don't want you doing this as a norm, but we'll let this one go. Let this one go is a person dying, by the way. So it's really hard with these situations because the ethics are all different. I mean, it's hard, Paul.
Well, things happen fast. And most of the time, actually, the Army and others, Marines, will pass on like making an airstrike on a group of people. They could be terrorists, or maybe they're just gathering for a funeral or something. You never know.
Yeah.
So you just but they've done a good job erring on the side of, not striking. I think, from what I saw.
When do you think you got good at doing?
Wrong a lot.
When do you think you got good, like really good at doing the job that you do? You've been doing it for a long time, coming up on your 13th tour. When do you think you started to figure it out?
Well, just treating the populace with respect goes a long way.
Okay.
A huge way. Yeah. Dealing with the populace. And of course, I had to rewrite and write people's bullshit reports all the time. So that was a pain in the ass. But you're a good writer. Don't worry, Pete.
Good. I had to learn how to write reports for the commander, for what we did. And it required understanding what the commander needed and how they wanted it parsed because, our organization would create some kind of format that had nothing to do with anything. And then I had Colonel Green, who was 210. He's like, here's what I want. Here's what every commander in my place wants. Write this, in this style, in this format, and you'll never have a problem. And then so here I learned all this stuff about how to be used. Like, this is how you use me, Colonel, to whatever the colonel was next. And I worked for a lot of colonels after Rich, and this stuff worked. And he said a couple of key things to me. He said, always remember that we all love Napoleon. And so you can always go to Audacity and tell them that you know that. Just say Audacity, always Audacity, and they'll eat it up. He taught me how to influence the other colonels, And then one of the things I learned was when I showed up to a new colonel, whether I was already there or I was brand new to the area, I would say, you're going to put me under a captain, and that's fine. We'll work on that. In 3 weeks, you'll see what I do, and you'll kind of get it. And in 3 months, you're going to look at me and say, you're my number one force multiplier. We couldn't have done this as fast without you. You don't have to say it because we've already had this conversation, and then you're going to give me open access to your couch. I'm not going to have to wait in line to see you. You'll want to talk to me. And you're also going to have to guide me because sometimes I'm so laser focused, you're going to need to nudge me over a little bit. And I need your top cover. And those guys would all go, okay, because I told them what they were going to get for it and what they had to do. And that was it. And they'd be like, yeah, that's easy. That's not hard. And then 3 months later, they'd look at me and be like, and I'm like, you don't have to say it. I already know. We already had this conversation. And they would like sit down on the couch, and we would go forward from there. It was incredible, but I had to learn how to speak commander from a commander. No one trained us for that stuff, how to communicate these things, how to put ourselves in the best position to work for these commanders, because a lot of teams, people who would graduate from the schoolhouse come down range and say, we're changing our reporting format. And I'm like, I'm never changing it because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And there would be a big team fight, but I would never change. Yeah.
Yeah, you do what the commander says. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. They were never asking, could you guys reformat this? We was never asked that once. The format worked. Don't change it. Don't complicate shit.
Which one was Colonel Green?
Colonel Green was down in south of Cache South. Everything south of that, in the Medine, in that area. And Salmon
you're talking about the polar bears?
Yeah, the polar bears. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a good guy. He lives up the street here in Arlington.
Yeah, he does. I've actually stayed at his house, and he's a great guy. What are your proudest moments in doing all this work? It's a lot of dangerous, hard work, many, many hours. What makes you the proudest?
Goodness. Gosh, the fact that I was there.
Yeah.
Others didn't want to be there. Actually, some of the moments I remember the most are my least proudest moments. We had a big attack on Easter around 2000. God, we were 2011, it must have been. And I could tell something was going to go on. The bad guys had been doing nothing for a while, and they love to do things like attack on Easter and things like that. And I didn't make any noise about it. I knew something was going to happen. I felt it in my bones, and I didn't say anything. And sure enough, they attacked big time all across our AOR. It still sits in me, just still think about it, man. Good thing is we didn't lose any people, but we could have decimated them if they had known. But I knew something was going to happen, and I didn't do anything about it.
It's not just gut, though. It's something else in that data that makes you have that gut sense.
I didn't really have any empirical data. That's a funny thing. But I knew because they had done that in Iraq before. I remember March 23rd, 2008, they attacked us on Easter Sunday. It was an early Easter. And I knew something like that was going to happen again. And I just didn't say anything about it. So I always felt bad about that.
Yeah.
Proudest moments, I don't know, just sticking it out and helping others come along and just doing what they told me to do. Keeping my nose clean. That's a big problem with civilians over there. A lot of them just get in trouble for stupid things.
Yeah.
As you know. I don't know. Crazy.
Keeping my nose clean can be a proud moment because there's a lot of distraction and temptations and desires that are not in balance with reality.
Well, we couldn't drink. We couldn't have girls and stuff like that. So. That's a big part of my life, by the way.
I like drinking and girls. Yeah. Yeah.
What's wrong with that? We couldn't do that over there. So maybe that's good for me. Maybe subliminally. That's why I'm trying to get back there.
Do any conversations with the locals stand out? Like where you're like that? I have to always remember this. Like what kind of nuggets did you pick up where you're like, this is one of the greatest moments of all of my gathering of information?
Just the only things I remember is one guy with steel hands just telling me, listen, I know you Americans, 90% of us love you, 10% of us hate you. So this is what you should do. Just simple stuff like that. They were always concerned about health care too, because there really wasn't any health care over there.
Yeah.
So that stood out a lot. So we try to focus as much as we could on stuff like that.
And Iran was glad to help with healthcare too.
Because, the Iraqis are an advanced people, but their governance was so screwed up, and a lot of people left to go to Britain, U.S., and Sweden. Sweden was the big honeypot for these guys.
Yeah.
Sweden had open borders, so all the smart doctors and everything took off and went to Sweden. Yeah.
I want to ask you one more hard question.
How hard?
Pretty hard. I know for a fact that we weren't prepared when we showed up. Every unit came with the same set of shortfalls. They trained fantastically for combat, but they were never trained for the thing they were going to do there. Whether they were artillerymen, who I worked for, infantry, they just had not spent enough time on the things that they had to do. Not their fault. It's people like General Austin who didn't get the job done and getting people prepared to be there. If they had been more prepared, 50% more prepared, whatever it is, just the ability to focus earlier on the things that they had to do, because they maybe had 3 months of productivity, and which is not productive in a year. It's just not enough. Could we have done a better job in Iraq? Was Iraq possible to get way more right? If we could have just been more prepared.
Well, the question is, should we have been in Iraq in the first place, I guess?
Should we have been in Iraq in the first place?
91, they handled it well. George H.W. and Jim Baker. We kicked their asses and we got the hell out. Yeah. But Saddam Hussein was still there. But setting up all these damn bases everywhere. And you know how many bases we had? Over 100 for a while.
Yeah.
All over the place. I don't know how else you can prepare. They put you through the training before you come, and at first nobody knew what the hell they were doing. Nobody knew where Iraq was.
Or Sunni and Shia. We didn't know that stuff.
Yeah, they didn't know all that crap. So yeah, training. I mean, what else can you do? And why were we there in the first place? But I enjoyed being there.
Nobody ever gave anybody a professional level class on how to deal with an interpreter. There was no institutional doctrine on that. There's a good place to start. If you're going to use one all the time, you should damn well be really fucking good at using one. But we weren't.
Yeah. My big problem is I didn't know I was going to be there for all these tours. Had I known that, I would have learned the damn language. I learned it a little, obviously you did too, but I would have made sure I knew it because communication is everything, as you know. And I had interpreters and they were good, pretty good, but they were working both sides. You know it, I know it. But I would have learned the language. That's a big negative. We didn't have any. We didn't have any Arabic speakers over there. My God. Americans.
I mean, we had some good interpreters. I actually absorbed the commander's interpreter from when 210 pulled out of Salman Pak and all those areas. I picked up their interpreter. He's an American guy. He wasn't a citizen, but he'd been in Florida for 30 plus years. And we ran that place because I knew how to work it. This is the point I got to. I got to the point where the members of parliament, I could invite them on the camp and get the camp to go, yeah, whatever you want, Pete, and treat those guys like the VIPs they were. Give them ice cream, let them have anything they want in the chow hall, and they ate that shit up. And I took those lessons to Afghanistan and did even better because I realized that we always went and ate their chow. We never hosted them on our side. And I would never let anybody inspect one of my people coming in. Like, this person's a VIP. You wave at him, you say, Saidi, and then you get the hell out of the way. And the Army trusted me enough to let me do that. And I got to meet people that no one else got to meet because I knew how to show them respect. I knew how to treat them properly,
Well, that's everything. It's personal relationships. You show them respect, and that's a huge thing over there. You can get away with it here in the U.S., but over there, man, you got to show them respect, make them know they're important people.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way thing,
Or don't respect them and see what happens.
You'll get a bullet in the back of your head.
Yeah.
That's
or your partner will get killed or whatever. Yeah.
The green on blue thing, that was getting out of control for a while because they treat these people like shit. That's what happens.
Yeah, I was on a number of camps where that kind of thing happened, and we would get told walk around with one in the pipe and ready to go because we don't know which one it's going to be, but we know it's going to happen. And so you're just like, all right. And that's another kind of tension that you deal with. Like, you can't mean mug everybody, but you have to also realize that these people are not all your friends. So you have to find those 10 people or be so good at working the other 90 that they protect you from those 10,
Yeah, but I mean, everybody over there does it for money. They're going to play both sides to get money.
Yeah.
How many ideological thinking people, interpreters or whatever over there? There just aren't many. It's all about the dough.
We're running a little short on time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. My thing's about to die too. So. Hey, listen, Peter, I appreciate it very much. Nice getting in touch with you. I'll try to give you a buzz later or something.
Yeah, please do. And I know you're about to run out of battery power, but this kind of stuff, man, this is what makes a difference because we don't normally get to tell our story. We're not Green Berets, we're not SEALs, but the stuff we did it's as important. Being able to direct a command or answer hard questions for them. People like you, if no one's told you, forget, serving your country. You've done something bigger than that, man. And you deserve all of our thanks and congratulations and respect because doing what you've done is not easy to do. And it's a sacrifice for all of us and for the folks that you're trying to help in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah. Well, I still know judo, so be careful.
Hiya!